Thanks for joining me on this video of Phuket System Invoice for Google Sheets. Now, as you're aware, Google Sheets is a completely free application. It can run both on your desktop and on your mobile devices. There's no charge involved. You don't have to pay for any add-ons to achieve the full functionality of Google Sheets. Today we're going to be discussing specifically Phuket System Invoice system. It is more than an invoicing system. It is closer to a full accounting system, and we'll go through and discuss the functionality of it piece by piece. Just before we do that, I'd just like to cover some of the design processes associated with this particular application. The heart and soul of the application is, of course, your invoicing system. Within the invoicing system, you have your straight invoice, quotation, and the payment for an invoice, and can be a payment standalone for multiple invoices. Also, in a similar fashion, we have a purchase order to buy inventory or to order inventory, the actual receipt of the inventory, and the payment to your supplier of the inventory itself. And down below that we have a couple of journals. There's an income journal and expense journal, and these relate to specific bank accounts or cash accounts, specific categories of income or expenditure, and also relate to providers. Coming back to the original invoicing system, now obviously we're going to draw from the customer database. We're also going to draw information from the inventory database. So both those two sheets feed into your invoice sheet, hence the arrows heading towards the invoice sheet. As a result of the invoice, and for that matter your purchase order or receipt being raised, journal entries are made, and these are performed by the use of these dark blue buttons here, or the caricature of buttons, represent the journal entries being created as a result of a completed invoice, and similarly with your purchase orders. So there are two items created in each particular post. There's the actual invoice journal for the inventory items themselves, and also the summary journal, which is the actual total of the invoice, which is then of course automatically posted back to your customers, same with your suppliers. So each one of these squares here represents a particular tab on your invoicing system. We'll go back to the invoicing system itself now. And those dark blue buttons that I was talking about relate to this function here, which is to save the invoice and to email a PDF copy of the invoice to your customer. I might add, as well as emailing a copy to your customer, a copy is also sent to you, being the vendor themselves of or the supplier of the goods being sold. A couple of other action buttons up the top, or three of them in total. There's a button to insert an extra row into the invoice. There's a button to delete selected rows, and this is where you select the rows out on the left hand side. So each particular line item will have a blank checkbox associated with it, so you can multi-select whichever items you wish to delete, and it is a delete of the selected rows. If you're unhappy with the invoice or wish to clear it completely, there's a clear invoice button there. So let's just go ahead and look at the functionality of the invoice itself now. I mentioned that the invoice could also be a quotation, so there's a drop down arrow here which gives you the option to use it as a quotation, as an invoice, or you can just use it as a simple payment of past services that have been sold or supplied. So we'll leave it at invoice at the moment. This information obviously is your own information. You can change the logo and your company name. Similarly, you can tailor that for any customers that you're supplying the invoicing system to. Down below that is the option to select a customer. Now, that's your customer table there. We have 5 dummy customers that previously set up. So you enter in on a line by or row basis your customer information, and of course you can amend this to as you need if you wish to add more information. So go back to the invoice. You can see here the option to select a customer. I'll select customer 1, and that will bring in their address details, their email address. Number is auto-generated. You can set a starting number, and as each document is created, that will automatically increase the number there. Defaults to today's date, and obviously you can change that as you require. Now down into the items section, you'll always start with at least one line being presented. So we'll select a product. We've got 6 dummy products, so we select product 1. Defaults to a quantity of 1, and you can see it's automatically looked up the price of the item, it's applied the tax rate and arrived at a total price. Now if the customer has a discount rate, it will be drawn from the customer details themselves and applied to the selling price, and the tax is applied on the discounted selling price. So that is why we have this amount of $71.25 for the discount and $71.25 for the tax. So this particular one, if you're going to give them this particular customer has a tax a discount rate of 5%, the tax rate is 5%, so that's not smart business. But if we add another product, we'll go in and add an extra line. So we go to insert row. We'll see the script is running. I'll talk about scripts in a moment. We now have an extra line. We'll select product 2, and we'll change that to a 2. So the action of changing quantities or adding products will affect the calculations. And now we have a discount of $308.75, and we've got tax included $356.25. So this can go on ad infinitum. You can have any number of invoice lines that you like. To add an invoice line, just click on insert row. If you want to delete any lines, select the checkbox out on the left hand side. You can do multiple selections and then click on delete row or rows. We'll just leave it as it is at the moment for the purposes of the demo. If you completely want to start again, it's just a matter of clicking in clear invoice, and it will completely clear the invoice full of all the items and come back to just one row with an item yet to be selected. So when you're happy with your invoice, you can then either put a payment in there, or you can leave that open. These terms can be changed. The thank you message can be changed. And when you're finished with the invoice, you have this option to save in PDF. It's just the one button. The action of doing that will write the journal entries automatically and send a PDF copy of the invoice to your customer, and not forgetting that a copy will also go to yourself. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So we'll go ahead and save the particular invoice. You can see that the script is running. You can stop it at any stage, but we'll allow it to run through. It's writing the journal entries automatically and sending a copy to the customer, and also a copy to yourself. So when it's finished, the script is now finished. You can see that we're back to a new invoice. The numbers increased by 1, and it's ready to start writing another invoice. Now, as a result of that particular invoice being written, and we just go back to our diagram once again. See if I can find it for you. I think I might have closed it off. Anyway, just referring to the diagram quickly, we mentioned that a number of journal entries were created as a result of saving the invoice. And here's the journals. We've got the customer journal and the inventory journal. We'll look at the customer journal initially. You can see that this invoice number 16 to customer 1 has been automatically written, and all the details have gone in there automatically. So $308 discount, the tax included of $356.25, a profit of $1175 in total. So all those happen automatically. As a result of that journal, through the use of formulas, the customer details themselves will have been updated. So if we go back to the customer list, you can see here, if we move across, you can see that customer 1, that's this line 3, has a last invoice date of the 1st of the 7th, the total sales. Total outstanding will have increased as a result of that last invoice, and total profit will have increased as a result of that last invoice. So all these figures here are automatically updated through the journal. Now the only way to change these figures, because they're tied to formulas and the formulas are protected, is to alter the journal themselves. But we did say there was an inbuilt security safeguard for that, in that you do have a full copy of the invoice that's just been sent that will be sitting in your own email system. So if you look at, for instance, at this outstanding, we'll just select this one here. You can see that this is the formula to update. If I just click on that, you can see it's quite an involved formula. All these formulas will be available to you in the form of a download of the sheet together with all the source, all completely free of charge, and you can amend, resell, do what you like. It's my gift to you. All I ask is that you register on PhuketSys.com your interest. So a lot of formulas. The formulas, by the way, should be protected. Now these are protected. If you look under data, you get the option to protect sheets and ranges. Now, as the spreadsheet is distributed to you, it is in a read-only format. That is, you can't alter it. But providing you have a Google account and you make a copy of the spreadsheet, the full spreadsheet with all the formulas and all the code will be available to you. So you will have full access to the system for you to make changes however you desire. But just remember, you'll need to have a Google account and you'll need to make a copy of the sheet. Now, when you navigate to the URL, which I will supply when you register, you will have the option to load in the existing sheet, but you also have here this option under File to make a copy. Now, when you make a copy, the sheet is yours. You can rename it to whatever you like. You have full control over the design of the sheet, full control over the scripting code. Now, coming back to the scripting code, I mentioned that the customer sheet is automatically updated by the use of these formulas. There's formulas for everything here. That's why I've protected the formulas in this particular sheet, and you'll have to add your protection back in when you make a copy. But in addition to the formulas which are updated automatically from the journal entries, the method that we use to make the journal entries is through the use of those buttons that I was talking about. We go back to the invoice, this Save in PDF button will automatically write the journals. Now, how do we write the journals? Well, if you navigate to Extensions and go to App Script, you will see here, when this loads in, a complete list of all the, and we've got 4 buttons, so there's 4 scripts. First script is to insert row. We've got another one down here which is to delete rows. It can be one or multiple rows. Remember, checkbox beside the selected rows that are required. The button to clear the form, and finally the Save PDF. Now I'll let you look at this code in your own time, and I will provide a text file with all the code in it, also a help file relating to the formulas that you will need to protect yourself. But you can see here that you've got your own, it's getting your own email address from cell F6. We go back to the form, that is cell F6 there. Well, it spans 3 different cells, but it's referenced by cell 6 there. So that's the email address a copy will be sent to. That's the email address that will be sent to the customer. So two separate emails are being sent through this script. And finally, after the emails have been sent, it then does some housekeeping, such as writing the journals, looking up prices to get profit levels, and so on. We won't go into the code in too much detail, but as I mentioned, a similar action if we're going to start using purchase orders. On the purchase order side, got a number of drop downs. It can be the order of stock, the receipt of stock, and your payment to suppliers. Now I mentioned that there are two other means of recording income and expenses, and that is by your own journal entries. And we have income here. I'll bring this one up. This is simply a ledger that you maintain yourself, and it will update to income categories, and in the expense ledger that will update to expense categories. And we'll just go along a bit. There's your expense categories. Now look, there's no limit to the number of entries you can have both in your journals and your categories: customers, inventory, suppliers. We've got providers. Now the difference between a provider and supplier is provider is a means of referencing your income and expenses. It's not necessarily a person who supplies your inventory. It could be the 7-Eleven down the road where you buy your bottled water. That can be a provider. Your accounts, of course, it can be a cash account, it can be a bank account, it can be transferred to a loan account. So no limit. I have set up made provision up to 500 such items, but you can expand that. So as I mentioned at the beginning, each particular area has a particular tab that you can reference. The journal entries, in particular these journal entries here, are automatically maintained through the action buttons on the invoice and purchase receipt areas. The expense categories, the accounts and the providers are automatically maintained through the manual entries into income, and just move along a bit, the expenses, this one here. Drop downs for everything that you need to select. If there is no account already created, such as you don't have a provider, it's just a matter of going to the tab which is down here and entering in a new provider. It's a very easy process. I do intend in the future to expand this one step further, and that is to add a staff and payments section. That will be very similar to the invoice and purchase order type section, where your pay slip will be very similar to the invoice, in that a staff being paid will basically have the main item will be the main salary. Underneath that you'll have your sub items which relate to the various expenses that they get paid, and of course underneath that you can have any negative amounts which are payments to people, that such as payments of loans on behalf of your staff, or payments for insurance, whatever. So this will expand, and instead of invoice it will become a salary payment slip. Now, on the subject of using this on a mobile device, in order to achieve the full functionality of Google scripting, you need to run your mobile device's browser in desktop mode to access Google Sheets. If you're going to make a shortcut on your home page, just remember that there will be an additional entry required, and we'll just have a talk about this additional entry. It's an anomaly that Google Chrome doesn't give you the correct desktop URL when you say add to desktop. You will need to add in this section here if you're using Google Chrome to any shortcut that you create on the desktop. Now, strangely enough, Microsoft Edge handles that, and you won't need to worry about any adjustment to the URL. But just be aware that if you're going to use Google Chrome in desktop mode to access Google Sheets, you will need to adjust the URL that it creates for the desktop icon to go to Google Sheets. The other thing about using mobile devices is it can be a bit fiddly just using your fingers to make selections for customers and products. So I would suggest that you get a digital pointing device. Now look, these are less than $20 and it makes things so much easier. And by a digital pointing device, I don't mean a rubber-based end of a ballpoint pen which looks like a rubber. I mean a specific powered pointing device which you can precisely make selections with. That just about concludes the presentation. I'm sure that you'll probably have questions, so I look forward to you making comments. And look, if you enjoyed the video or you find it useful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Phuket Systems does have other software, and the idea of making this freely available to you is to establish interest in my other products. So I would suggest that you look at the Phuket Sys website in total, and don't forget to subscribe and a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. Thank you for your participation.